while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players. Show me in the white community where a comedian is a white leader. Show me in the white community where a singer is a white leader, or a dancer or a trumpet player is a white leader. These aren't leaders. These are puppets and clowns that have been set up over the white community and over the black community by the white community and have been made celebrities and usually say exactly what they know that the white man wants to hear.
This station is from a stream to a flowing river. This station is growing bigger and bigger. This station is for all the garrison. No other station in comparison. The Badass station is everywhere. Even when you're shopping in these places, Tesco, Lidl, Sainsbury, and even Morrison, JahBunny station, no stress, no pain, and no altercation. JahBunny Badass station.
Good evening, good night, good morning, good afternoon. This is the man from Buzzwalk, the Rastafari International Ambassador, JahBunny, better known as the Badass, the man from Buzzwalk. This is the continuation of my Malcolm X presentation. Today, I'm gonna have Malcolm X explain the difference between a black revolutionary and a Negro revolution. Yeah. Now, in the 1960s, Rastafari rise up strongly. In early 1960, we had an attempt at revolution by the founding father Claudius Henry and his American son, who lead a team to take over Jamaica. This revolution was failed because of collaborators such as my father and Philip Avaranga.
And in 1960, the movement captured international headlines when Reverend Claudius Henry, a Rasta initiate, and 38 of his followers were arrested in an alleged plot to overthrow the government. A letter addressed to Castro was found, urging him to invade Jamaica and promising assistance from the group. Fearing an invasion from Cuba, the colonial government instituted naval patrols and went as far as requesting assistance from the United States.
A man by the name of Reverend Henry was in America, and he come to Jamaica and started to preach Rasta doctrine. He was training some youth with some gun. Well, the colonial government never liked it. So they eventually charged him for subversive activity.
Claudius Henry didn't come as no savior to save the Rasta. Him come no pretending same is member of the Ethiopian World Federation. And him farm a thing named 70 Manuel Brethren and take out member of the Ethiopian World Federation join it. They want to overthrow the government, but they might involve Rasta, say Rasta, the Rasta don't know politics. And
then him son, Reverend Henry, and 6 more other brethren come from America with gun. Say them come to take out them father out of prison. Well, they ambush some Hampshire soldier, that is a British man soldier, white man, and killed 2 and wounded 1 and make them escape. So, the soldier then report to Mr. Manley, Norman Manley, that is Rasta, kill them and them. So Mr. Manley say to the nation over the radio, anyway you see 2 or 3 Rasta together, report to the nearest police station. Well, Brother Plano, with me and Sam Brown, right Sarata Lewis at the University of the West Indies. Tell him to come and investigate the Rasta movement to prove that the movement is not subversive. So Sarata Lewis sent Rex Neckleford, Ajay, and Smith.
Now, I have played a clip in other segment, and everyone goes silent when they saw that Rasta have turned on itself. Now, the collaborators from who turned against Claudius Henry were eventually sent on a fact-finding mission to 5 African countries or states. Since 1961, they have returned, and we have been told that 2 reports was submitted from that mission. We were told that a majority report was submitted and a minority report was also submitted by the Rastas them. Since 1961, no one has physically cited any of these reports. Yet Rastafari continue to perpetrate and lie about this report, and today we have people still falsely making it up as they go along. Now, in the early 70s, again, the CIA run in on Jamaica again to take it over. And it was my team that put up resistance at the time as young Rasta zealous revolutionary. My generation, I have already explained, have made contact with the Panthers, the Black Liberation Army, and other black group in the 70s. Hence, when I and my team reached to the US, we went up to Harlem. Yeah, there's a famous saying, hell up in Harlem. Yeah, I was a part of that, hell up in Harlem. Now, this thing gonna get deep because it is deep, and we'll have Malcolm explain the revolutionary position in the 60s, and I will periodically explain how we fit in. In the 1970s, Rastafari Revolution vanguards, this is my team, we took over the street of the US in the 70s. Yeah, we did. We were named gangsters, yardies, passes, you name it. Because they couldn't figure us out, they put whatever name they choose to put on us. And eventually infiltrate us and capture us for a while, and then eventually ship us out. But how was they able to do what they did to us? We were sold out by the elders who collaborate with the Smithsonian against the Rastafari vanguard. The record is clear, and the people that sold us out is clear. Some have passed off and gone, and some are still here today. Now, you don't have to look far to know who are the sellouts. Hence, I keep saying, when I talk, no dog bark. So listen how the street is silent, because a lot of people have been hearing what I'm saying, not for the first time, but it makes sense more and more the more I repeat it. Since then, yeah, since the 80s, our musicians and entertainers have continued to sold us out openly. Hence you have the like Sizzler, Buju Banton, Capleton, Luton Fire, and Tony B. All of them have collaborated with them against us. Now, I don't have to accuse anyone, and I'm not accusing anyone, but it would be good for Buju Banton and Sizzler, both who have received back their visa and are in the US going on nearly 3 weeks now. Nobody from the black struggle from the Rastafari community know why these men are in the US. These men are public figures, musicians, and if they were on tour, we would have known. If they were on promotional purpose, we would have known. Why is it that these men cannot openly declare the purpose for being in the US today? How comes these men have no concern, no care, and it doesn't matter to them how we are feeling today? Well, I'm gonna have Malcolm X come back from his grave and explain further the difference, like I said, between a black revolutionary and a nigger revolutionary. Keep in mind, all the revolution that is taking place today in Africa are based on black revolution principle. That's what all the revolution that we see taking place today in Africa, it is black revolution based. I would like Sizzler, not Sizzler, but the musicians and entertainer state their position today now. Which side are they on? Because this thing I go somewhere now. And this explains today why Rasta is going around in circle. Nobody know why Rasta amongst them. Rasta is the biggest traitor today to the black race. Rasta. Yeah. If you look at the history of Rastafari, Selassie, then you will see that he was the biggest collaborator, yeah, with Babylon against us. Yeah. You can't stop me from talking, you know, because I'm telling you, I have my own Irish. I work out these things by my own. I don't need you or them to help me work this out. Because, as I say, I'm on code from I was a toddler. Yeah. I grew up under the us and them code. Each time I try to speak about us and them, I notice what I do. I want to try to culture shame me. But now go work. So, as Malcolm did once say, the chicken finally come home to roost.
Their religious differences, they came together. Some were communists, some were socialists, some were capitalists. Despite their economic and political differences, they came together. All of them were black, brown, red, or yellow. The number one thing that was not allowed to attend the Bandung Conference was the white man.
And who do you think they learned that from? By the way, who do you think all those people learned that from? All these colonized people, and who gave them the idea that, hey, by the way, yeah, that you can run something here and not have troublemakers in the midst? Who showed them that example?
Couldn't come. Once they excluded the white man, they found that they could get together. Once they kept him out, everybody else fell right in and fell in line. This is the thing that you and I have to understand. And these people who came together didn't have nuclear weapons. They didn't have jet planes. They didn't have all of the heavy armaments that the white man has, but they had unity. They were able to submerge their little petty differences and agree on one thing, that though one African came from Kenya and was being colonized by the Englishman, and another African came from the Congo and was being colonized by the Belgian, and another African came from Guinea and was being colonized by the French, and another came from Angola and was being colonized by the Portuguese. When they came to the Bandung Conference, they looked at the Portuguese and at the Frenchman and at the Englishman and at the other Dutchman and learn or realize that the one thing that all of them had in common, they were all from Europe. They were all Europeans, blonde, blue-eyed, and white-skinned. They began to recognize who their enemy was. The same man that was colonizing our people in Kenya was colonizing our people in the Congo. The same one in the Congo was colonizing our people in South Africa and in southern Rhodesia and in Burma and in India and in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. They realized all over the world where a dark man was being oppressed, he was being oppressed by the white man. Where the dark man was being exploited, he was being exploited by the white man. So they got together under this basis, that they had a common enemy. And when you and I here in Detroit and in Michigan and in America, who have been awakened today, look around us, we too realize here in America, we all have a common enemy. Whether he's in Georgia or Michigan, whether he's in California or New York, he's the same man. Blue eyes and blonde hair and pale skin.
Now, the point that he was making here is that our condition was not accidental. Our condition is deliberate. It's engineered. It didn't just come out of nowhere. There's not just some intangible in the ether. There's a specific tangible individual you can point to. It's like, hey, that guy over there is the one doing it. This is why we don't need Kamala Harris to sit up here and tell us what the problem is. We know what the problem is. What we're focused on is, okay, what do we do about it? Don't tell me about the problem, man. What are you going to do? Because we already told you what needs to be done. And the issue that we have is for those who do not come from our lineage, there's where you get the pushback from and the resistance from, and they carry over what they were doing back where they came from. At that time, Malcolm was rather optimistic about getting everybody on board for that. History has kind of shown us something slightly different. But by the way, the same things we're talking about now on a global scale, folks, they heard it decades ago. Decades.
Same man. So what we have to do is what they did. They agreed to stop quarreling among themselves. Any little spat that they had, they'd settle it among themselves. Go into a huddle. Don't let the enemy know that you got a disagreement.
Well, that's very interesting because you see, every time we turn around, there's a Coleman Cruz or there's a Candace Owens. And you got some other buck dancers, you got some Tim Scotts out there. But we police them. The message we have here is that if there is an issue like that, you don't sit up here, like here on the Black Channel, I'm talking among the people here. I'm talking among the people. I'm not calling in CBS or white-owned BET to be a referee. See, there's a critical difference. I'm not calling them in to be a referee. Dr. John Henry Clark taught us about this. Malcolm was talking about that. Beware these people. You have to beware these folks who sit up here and talk about, ooh, I'm going to tell the white folks. You have to beware those. Those are the folks holding up their banner that, hello, I'm the traitor. When they start sitting up here suggesting to you and telling you that they are going to involve the dominant society in what we're doing, that's a warning to all of us. When you got the one who stands up and does that, that's the warning to all of us. Oh, you're with them. See, folks, it's not hard to identify them. It's about whether or not you have the will to accept the obvious. Oh, you're with them. You're working with those folks. You see, when you have a code of conduct as a people, then you hold each other to a standard because you have a code of conduct. And what you're looking for is anybody who is off code. You don't get to cry and moan and whine your way about why you broke code. The code is the ruler. The code is the leader. And your job is to identify those who are off code. This is the reason why cooperating with other people tends to be futile. They don't have a code. We start talking and then they show up and everybody start talking about how you don't need one. And let me go ahead and say this, because we are the only people we are the only group who has created one. Those of us who draw our lineage from the soil here, we're the only ones who actually demonstrated that we could constitute and institute and create a code of conduct. And it is spread around the world. And it's the template that everybody else trying to get their act together uses, including non-black people. So since we are the ones who have clearly demonstrated that we've mastered it, everybody needs to fall in line with the trendsetter. Everyone needs to fall in line behind the leader because we've shown that we're the ones who made a viable template for it. Everybody else who shows up wanting to alter things is, oh, well, who sent you? Oh, them folks sent you and said, y'all need to change what you're doing. Yeah, you need to change what you're doing over here. You need to realize it's not really about that stuff you all talking about. It's not about race. It's about class. It's not about race. It's about class. Then you start getting into that. Do you notice these folks who don't come from our lineage here and jump into discussion, the ones who follow us talk about it's about race. The ones who don't start talking about it's about class. It's about something else. Why are you blaming these people here? Why are you putting at their feet there? It's about something else. And the real thing they're letting you know is that at the end of the day, if you do not give them a white person to bow to, then they will bring one in the room and expect the rest of us to start bowing. That's the problem.
Instead of us airing our differences in public, we have to realize we're all the same family. And when you have a family squabble, you don't get out on the sidewalk. If you do, everybody calls you uncouth, unrefined, uncivilized, savage. If you don't make it at home, you settle it at home. You get in the closet, argue it out behind closed doors. And then when you come out on the street, you pose a common front, a united front. And this is what we need to do in the community and in the city and in the state. We need to...
Now, let me go ahead and back that up because I want you to hear this part one more time.
Don't let the enemy know that you got a disagreement. Instead of us airing our differences in public, we have to realize we're all the same family. And when you have a family squabble, you don't get out on the sidewalk. If you do, everybody calls you uncouth, unrefined, uncivilized, savage. If you don't make it at home, you settle it at home. You get in the closet, argue it out behind closed doors. And then when you come out on the street, you pose a common front, a united front. And this is what we need to do in the community and in the city and in the state. We need to stop airing our differences in front of the white man. Put the white man out of our meeting, number one. And then...
Now, this is the critical difference between the Candace Owenses and the Coleman Cruzes and the scamming race grifters who make money selling coonin to white folk. They go and look for a white audience and a white massa with which to discuss black people in front of. That's the difference. We are not looking for a white person to go and discuss our issues in front of. We're not looking for a Matt Walsh or a Ben Shapiro to discuss black folk in front of, because Ben Shapiro is not looking for a group of black people to discuss Jewish people in front of. As a matter of fact, you saw Candace Owens found out firsthand what happened when she attempted to butt into a Jewish conversation. Candace Owens had the gall to even express that she had an opinion on a Jewish conversation. And then take a look at what happened. Then take a look at what happened. They won't let you talk to them like that. You don't get to horn in on their conversations. You try to talk, when they're talking about them, they're like, hey, you need to butt out. That's what they tell you. You need to butt out. They don't sit up here and look for you. We ain't looking for a powwow. When we're discussing our people, we ain't looking for a powwow to have you in. When they discuss their people, they want Jewish people to be the only ones who weigh in on that. You don't get to say a word. But when you start talking about black folk, is Ben Shapiro available? Hello? Hey, Daily Wire, is Ben in? Can we talk to Ben? Can we go ahead and talk to Ben? Yeah, is Ben here? Yeah, I'd like to talk. Ben said he wants to talk to us about, let me tell you what's wrong with black folk. You don't get to bring Ben Shapiro over to discuss what's wrong with Jewish people. Ben's not going to discuss that with you. The Daily Wire will not even begin that conversation with you. You don't get to sit as a group of black folk and Ben Shapiro tells you what's wrong with Jewish people. That's a conversation that's going nowhere. If you even attempt to do that, if you work for him, you're going to get fired. And if you try to call him in for the interview, he's not going to return your emails. They don't have a discussion with you about what Jewish people ain't doing and what they wrong about and what their evils and ills are and what they need to get right about themselves. You don't get to do that. And yet, when you're dealing with these off-code people, the off-code people, is easy to identify them because next thing you know, they're looking for white folk to discuss us in front of. Well, here, I'm going to invite them into it. And that is the reason that we are coaching these things in the terms that we are doing now. We're coaching it in these terms and we're framing it in these terms now because it is essential to get everybody's house in order. It is essential now to get everyone's house in order. So understand something. This is discipline that we are invoking now. We have a bunch of folks who haven't made progress and they're coming over here and they're making things messy and murky. And it is essential, if you're going to get everybody on code, then what we've done is we haven't done what the tether class does. We've taken you over here among the people. We're having this conversation among the people. We haven't invited any outsiders over here. We're having this conversation among the people. We're getting these folks straightened out among the people. I'm not bringing in a bunch of non-black folk here to sit here and discuss about, well, you know what we need to do. Let me tell you what they're doing wrong over there. Now that's what them folks do when they get off the boat. Well, you know, these are cartels over here. That's the problem. Yes, I will help you with that. The problem is them. But you see, we stay on code because we understand that as soon as you bring them people into it, next thing you know, you're not talking to them anymore. They're the ones talking to you. They're the ones talking to you. They're the ones doing that. This is why we have been starting now to say we're not beating up on anybody here. We're letting you know you hella off code, man. You're not children. Despite their pathetic attempts to become children of the dominant society, you're not children. We're going to talk to you, get you straightened out now. Hey, dude, you off code. Furthermore, you crossing boundaries. You are off code. That white ass kissing stuff you focused on and learned where you come from, that ain't it. We ain't doing that. That's not allowed. There's the difference. We're not doing the Candace Owens Coleman Cruz thing and finding a white audience or a white group to drag them in front of. We're not doing that. We're taking them to the people and saying, okay, we're taking care of that. In the chat room, make sure you get Plock's information here. They're going to call up when they open up the phone lines. They have questions. I have answers. So understand, people, we are 100,000% in the right. We are 100,000% in the right because this is what Malcolm talked about. If you do have an issue, and we do, we are going to see to that issue and rectify that issue among the people. But we ain't going to sit up here and kid glove it and pussyfoot it and sit up here and hold your hand. And, well, do you feel like stopping your cooning yet? Oh, you don't? A little bit more you need to understand? Okay, you messing things up for everybody else over here, but can we talk about your feelings? Look here, get your ass. No, we're going to deal with it from the street. We're going to deal with it from the street. That's what we're doing. And that is what it means to be on code. Malcolm talked about it 6 decades ago. It is just as accurate today as it was 6 decades ago. Don't let anybody sit up here and try to shame you or bully you into thinking that we need to change how we approach this. No, we don't. This is exactly what we're supposed to be doing. They're off code. We sitting here and getting their heads right and letting them know that we will not compromise. And that is the reason why there must be a difference in language. Just as we talked about the house nigga and the field negro, we have a different word for you. You don't get to be called by the same word as us if you're not on code. If you are on code, you're one of us. If you are off code, you're one of them. Domestically, they're the coons, and internationally, if they come over here, they're the tethers. Well, dude, we got a word for you. You're either with us or you're not. If you are with us, ain't no need to talk about it. If you are conflicted about that, that's probably because you're not actually with us. If you're catching feelings over it, you're probably not really with us. So that part bothers them. It's like, oh boy, you gonna stop me from cooning out? I can't chase Zaddy. I feel some kind of way. I feel like you get me set for something here. Okay. Take your lips off of Zaddy's butt cheeks. Maybe you'll start to feel a little bit differently here. It's like, yeah, you can't make it like that. That's probably why you feel some kind of way. But I'm just saying, if you get white Zaddy's butt cheeks off your lips, and you might This probably won't bother you so much. You trying to get a Ziploc grip on it, and can I do that? So no, that is why we have always had different language in order to differentiate and distinguish who is with us and who isn't. The folks who are with us, they know they with us. The folks who are offended, they know they're not. It's like, yeah, I'm not really with you. Yeah, I'm not really with you. I'm trying to figure out how to have one foot over here and, see if me and Zaddy can make it on the low. So, okay. The folks who are not looking for that anymore, whether you're from Kenya or Kentucky, the folks who aren't looking for that doesn't bother them. They're like, look here, I ain't looking for none of that. I identify with you. I identify with you. That's a big difference involved. So when we speak about these things differently, that's because it's mandatory. This is how you distinguish who is on code from who is not. And that is essential.
And sit down and talk shop with each other. That's all you gotta do. I would like to make a few comments concerning the difference between the Black Revolution and the Negro Revolution.
We have a long tradition here. As the foundational descendants of the slaves, we have a long tradition of being on code. And part of the code is that we created our own terms and our own labels and our own words. These were not terms given to us by the dominant society. These were terms we created ourselves. These are terms and words that we gave meaning to. So you see, we have a long history of distinguishing ourselves. Some of you say delineating yourselves. We have a long history of saying, hey, here's the name for folks who are on code, and here's the name for those who are not. This isn't something that we just invented since the immigrant class started proliferating here. That's not something we just stumbled into. This is our culture. And yes, it is unique. That's the other thing that bothers some of the sensitive ones out there, is that, by the way, they don't have an equivalent to this. There is no equivalent of the Caribbean coon. It's just we Caribbean. There is no Caribbean off code. There's no African off code. It's just we African. I'm Zimbabwean. I'm Nigerian. There is no word that they use for, hey, that fella over there, he's off code. He ain't one of us. He doesn't represent the people. They don't have a word like that among their group. No wonder what we do and what we say is so startling to them. No wonder, because they're used to everybody's just the same. So you mean sitting next to your traitors and your backstabbers and your white ass, they're all the same too? They all get to sit here too. And you sit here and sympathize with them and empathize with them. Well, no wonder you can't get anything done. In your world, traitors and heroes are the same. In your world, a traitor and a hero are the same person. No wonder you can't get nothing done. No wonder you can't make anything happen. You see traitors and heroes as being equivalent. Then you meet us and we ain't playing that bull jive, and then all of a sudden, something wrong with y'all over there, dude. You are not working together with the people. No, this is working together with the people. We're making it very clear. So this, you want to know what our culture is? Yeah, here's another thing that we have that you don't. Our culture, we created the culture of making a distinction. We have fearlessly defined the difference between on code and off code. And that has defined the terms of engagement and who we count on and who we don't.
There's a difference. Are they both the same? And if they're not, what is the difference? What is the difference between a black revolution and a Negro revolution? First, what is a revolution? Sometimes I'm inclined to believe that many of our people are using this word revolution loosely, without taking careful consideration what this word actually means and what its historic characteristics are. When you study the historic nature of revolutions, the motive of a revolution, the objective of a revolution, and the result of a revolution, and the methods used in a revolution, you may change words. You may devise another program. You may change your goal and you may change your mind. Look at the American Revolution in 1776. That revolution was for what? For land. How was it? Why did they want land? Independence. How was it carried out? Bloodshed. Number one, it was based on land, the basis of independence. And the only way they could get it was bloodshed. The French Revolution, what was it based on? The landless against the landlord. What was it for? Land. How did they get it? Bloodshed. Was no love lost. Was no compromise. Was no negotiation. I'm telling you, you don't know what a revolution is. Because when you find out what it is, you'll get back in the alley. You'll get out of the way. Just a moment. The Russian Revolution. What was it based on? Land. The landless against the landlord.
Now, there's a reason why I am letting this play as long as I am. There's a reason why I'm doing that. I'm doing that because I want you all to understand something. I want you to understand. He's going through this long list, and there's a context I want you to get when he finishes this list of all these places that have had all these revolutions, these violent uprisings.
How did they bring it about? Bloodshed. You haven't got a revolution that doesn't involve bloodshed. And you're afraid to bleed. I said you're afraid to bleed. Long as the white man sent you to Korea, you bled. He sent you to Germany, you bled. He sent you to the South Pacific to fight the Japanese, you bled. You bleed for white people. But when it comes time to seeing your own churches being bombed and little black girls murdered, you haven't got no blood.
Now, I want to define a context here for you. When Malcolm X is talking about revolution and the fact that these revolutions have been violent uprisings, he's trying to define something first. The first thing he's trying to define for you is these groups that oppress you and dominate you. They have, take a look at their histories, not his words, take a look at their history. They have no reservation about killing people. And they do it to this very day. If you are an obstacle between what they want, they have absolutely no reservation about murdering you. So when you are dealing with people for whom murder, even mass murder, is always an option on the table, then you simply cannot be a person who characterizes freeing yourself if you don't understand that those are the terms and the language they understand. You can't free yourself under that circumstance. When you're dealing with people who murder and kill whole nations, So first and foremost, he's putting the context of the folks he's talking about. He's talking technically of all these nations, all these white supremacist, historically white supremacist nations. And by the way, I want to let it keep playing here because a lot of you, if you've never actually heard this entire speech, if you've only heard snippets of it and whatnot, he actually makes a reference to that, to what I just said. He's not naming these places from nowhere. You notice all the places he just named. These are all white countries. Did you notice that? All these revolutions he talked about, by the way, did you notice who they are? And then he puts it in the context.
You bleed when the white man says bleed. You bite when the white man says bite. And you bark when the white man says bark. I hate to say this about us, but it's true. How you gonna be nonviolent in Mississippi as violent as you were in Korea? How can you justify being nonviolent in Mississippi and Alabama when your churches are being bombed and your little girls are being murdered, and at the same time you're gonna get violent with Hitler and Tojo and somebody else that you don't even know?
Show me where the Malcolm X of Jamaica is. Show me where the Malcolm X of Puerto Rico is. Show me where the Malcolm X of Cuba is. Show me where the Malcolm X of Haiti is. Show me where the Malcolm X of the Dominican Republic is. Show me where the Malcolm X who talk like what you just heard right there is. Show me him. Show him. Go ahead and name him. No, don't tell me about no Rastafarians. Name him. Say the name. And we should all be able to recognize who it is if he actually exists. If not just making it up. You should be able to name them. An individual who sat there and talked to you and said what you just heard right there, which is, by the way, it's like, hey, take a look here. We have no problem blowing up and killing folks when white folk tell us jump. But by the way, where are we doing that? And understand, we're only 14% of the population here. We are not the majority population here. I've been showing you video after video, story after story, where we're undermined by the national government. But it's easy to do if you're 14% of the population. We're talking about places where you're 90, 95% of the population. How the hell can that be? How the hell can that be? When you take a look at the story of Mohammed Mossadegh in Iran. Mohammed Mossadegh was in Iran taking a look at all the money that the British were stealing from the oil industry. And Mohammed Mossadegh said, yeah, we're nationalizing these oil refineries. Y'all gangstered your way up in here. We gangstering it back. And they had to get together and kill him. And that's why Iran has always been the hardliner that it is today. Iran has always been the hardliner that it is today because when the Ayatollahs came up after Mossadegh. Talk about your elected governments. Well, they chose Mossadegh. The white folk got together and said, yeah, kill him. We'll put the royal family back in place. Don't these backwards people in the Middle East, don't they want a royal family? Well, they'll buy it. Bring the Shah back in and we'll put him in place. And then the Ayatollahs, the clerics, the Islamic clerics got together. And the man who has always stood as an icon to those of us who were children, Ayatollah Khomeini. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell that story there. Khomeini understood what the hell he was about to go up against. He was about to go up against the most well-financed and violent military on the face of the planet that has gone around murdering people and knocking over regimes. He understood what he was about to go toe-to-toe with. He saw what they did to Mossadegh, but he stood firm. And Khomeini sent out an edict that every picture or photograph of him smiling was to be burned and destroyed. That if anybody had a picture or photograph of anything of him smiling, you're to get rid of that. He wanted the image, the brand of Iran. He wanted to rebrand Iran. We are not the smiling Anglo nation here. No, I'm serious. And he wanted you to know that when you looked at the man who was running Iran, we're not smiling Mossadegh anymore. You shown us your fangs. we were talking to you before and we were reasoning with you before. Now you're murdering us? Yeah, we're done smiling. We're done smiling. That was a man who was serious. And those are the lessons that they learned. And when you take a look around the Caribbean and Africa, by the way, what do you not see? You see people sitting up here talking about forgiving. And meanwhile, you're being overrun by outsiders. These are supposed to be some of the wealthiest places on the planet, but they're not. And we're 14% of the population. And we've gotten far more done. Oh, wait a minute, we have a different code. And we learned that from the likes of Malcolm.
If violence is wrong in America, violence is wrong abroad. If it's wrong to be violent, defending black women and black children and black babies and black men, then it's wrong for America to draft us and make us violent abroad in defense of her. The Chinese Revolution, they wanted land. They threw the British out, along with the Uncle Tom Chinese. Yeah, they did. They set a good example. When I was in prison, I read an article, and don't be shocked when I say I was in prison. You still in prison.
Let's go ahead and deal with that right quick here. You know, when you got highfalutin, snooty Negroes who sit up here from their academic backgrounds, from their HBCUs and whatnot, Dr. John Henry Clark had to go ahead and break it down to the street and let you know that when it came to the revolutionaries were the street cats. The revolutionaries was the roughnecks. The revolutionaries was the gangsters. Let's be clear about that. The revolutionaries were the gangsters. All the college educated folk, they would go off to war and go do whatever the dominant society's bidding word was. The people who wasn't doing that, that was the street cats. That was the dudes with a rap sheet. That was the dudes who would go upside your head. Those were the fellas who was about that life. Those were the ones who put up the most resistance, not your academics looking at you, Michael Eric Dyson, Mark Lamont Hill. Both of you will sit up here and shave and oil up your booty cheeks. That's what our academics do in their pathetic attempts to get yet another cast-off, hand-me-down job or position. The street cats wasn't gonna do that. The street cats wasn't sitting up here going on the route twerking. The street cats wasn't going to be disrespected. That was the difference. You couldn't talk to the street cats crazy and everything goes straight for you. The street cats were like, no. Respect going to begin with how you talk to me. Respect is going to begin there. That's how you ended up with films sitting up here telling you, well, look here, fella. We can settle this like you got some class, Mr. Charlie. Or we can get into some gangster stuff. It can go either which way. That wasn't your academics talking like that. That wasn't your academics doing that. The street cats did that. Back then, they were real worried about that. Back then, they were real worried about that. What happened here? I'm just letting y'all know. I'm reminding you. By the way, if you want to know who it was who got things lit and got things popping, damn right, Eldridge Cleaver, Huey Newton, the gangsters and the G's are the ones who kicked off the movement and kept it sustained. The gangsters and the G's were the ones who took to the streets. And after Trayvon Martin, it was the gangsters and the G's taken to the streets then too. Back then, they were sitting up there wanting to sit up here and try to shame folks for that. But by the way, I just got to remind you that when you want to talk about the folks who was about that life, about that business in them damn streets, that hard line, these were fellas who wasn't no stranger to staring down the police, wasn't no stranger to a jail cell, wasn't no stranger to a rap sheet. And when it was time to put in work, they wasn't no stranger to stomping them out. No wonder we made headway. They weren't trying to be a part of their, quote, respectable society. They wanted to be empowered. Big difference. Oh yeah, that's our legacy through Malcolm too.
That's what America means, prison. When I was in prison, I read an article in Life magazine showing a little Chinese girl, 9 years old.
Now, here's a part right here I want y'all to listen to. I want you to listen to this story he's about to tell you.
When I was in prison, I read an article in Life magazine showing a little Chinese girl, 9 years old. Her father was on his hands and knees, and she was pulling the trigger because he was an Uncle Tom Chinaman. Yeah. When they had the revolution over there, they took a whole generation of Uncle Toms, right. Just wiped them out. Yeah, right. And within 10 years, that little girl became a full-grown woman. No more Toms in China. And today it's one of the toughest, roughest, most feared countries on this earth.
Did you get that? Did you get that? He sat there and told you that they went about on a campaign to ferret out everybody who still had allegiance to something other than China. And within a decade, it's actually closer to 2 decades, but you get the idea. Within a decade, you didn't have an Uncle Tom problem in China anymore. You didn't have that problem anymore. That's why we are going all in and stomping down on the coon issue. So that when we get up here in a decade, nobody in living memory is sitting up here talking about how admired they were. Nobody was talking about that. Nobody was talking about how admired they were. That's why we are making these lines very clear cut. We're making these lines very clear cut now. Yes, we're calling them coons. We got names for them. We going to work on that now. Because you have a government that supports that. And if you don't identify them, you can't deal with it. The issue is what makes us different from other folk here is we don't have our traitors sitting next to us and folks patting him on the back and shaking hands and making a place at the table for him and making him comfortable.
They took a whole generation of Uncle Toms, just wiped them out. And within 10 years, that little girl became a full-grown woman. No more Toms in China. And today it's one of the toughest, roughest, most feared countries on this earth by the white man, because there are no Uncle Toms over there.
Meanwhile, in America, they're importing ours.
Of all our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. And when you see that you got problems, all you have to do is examine the historic method used all over the world by others who had problems similar to yours. And once you see how they got theirs straight, then you know how you can get yours straight. Please. There's been a revolution, a black revolution going on in Africa. In Kenya, the Mau Mau were revolutionaries. They were the ones who made the word uhuru. They were the ones who brought it to the fore. The Mau Mau, they were revolutionaries.
Well, they had a good start. We helped get a good start there at least.
They believed in scorched earth. They knocked everything aside that got in their path. And their revolution also was based on land. a desire for land. In Algeria, the northern part of Africa, a revolution took place. The Algerians were revolutionists. They wanted land. France offered to let them be integrated into France. They told France to hell with France. They wanted some land, not some France. And they engaged in a bloody battle. So I cite these various revolutions, brothers and sisters, to show you, you don't have a peaceful revolution. You don't have a turn the other cheek revolution. There's no such thing as a nonviolent revolution. Only kind of revolution that's nonviolent is the Negro revolution. The only revolution based on loving your enemy is the Negro revolution. The only revolution in which the goal is a desegregated lunch counter, a desegregated theater, a desegregated park, and a desegregated public toilet. You can sit down next to white folks on the toilet.
I'm sure Candace Owens loves that aspect of it. And especially Coleman Cruz. Oh, that nigga's jumping up, peeking over the top of each of the stalls. Hey, is there a white man in here somewhere?
That's no revolution. Revolution is based on land. Land is the basis of all independence. Land is the basis of freedom, justice, and equality. The white man knows what a revolution is. He knows that the black revolution is worldwide in scope and in nature. The black revolution is sweeping Asia, sweeping Africa. It's rearing its head in Latin America. The Cuban Revolution, that's a revolution. They overturned the system. Revolution is in Asia. Revolution is in Africa. And the white man is screaming because he sees revolution in Latin America. How do you think he'll react to you when you learn what a real revolution is? You don't know what a revolution is. If you did, you wouldn't use that word. A revolution is bloody. Revolution is hostile. Revolution knows no compromise. Revolution overturns and destroys everything that gets in its way. And you sitting around here like a knot on these folks, no matter how much they hate me. No, you need a revolution.
Sad to say, in America, they don't listen to black folk till we take to the streets. They don't listen to black folk till we take to the streets. They start talking that garbage about they burned down their own neighborhoods. If that was the case there, you wouldn't be calling the National Guard. Don't try that lie. Out there in Atlanta, y'all saw that folks was downtown in Atlanta. Yikes. They were downtown in New York. Yikes. They were downtown in Minnesota. Yikes. No, we don't live downtown. They were downtown for that one. Oh, really? Oh, okay, you couldn't tell that lie this time. It's like, oh, wait a minute. When folks took to the streets there, it's like, yeah, by the way, if we cannot all be equally comfortable, we will all be equally uncomfortable. Yes, I was at the CNN building in downtown Atlanta. That's why I'm like, yeah, when they showed the CNN building getting kicked in, I'm like, oh, that's the middle of downtown. That's not Decatur. That's not College Park. That's the middle of downtown. That is square in the middle of this. Oh, okay. Can't tell that lie this time.
Who ever heard of a revolution where they lock arms, as Reverend Cleage was pointing out beautifully, singing, "We shall overcome"? Just tell me you don't do that in a revolution. You don't do any singing, you're too busy swinging. is based on land. A revolutionary wants land so he can set up his own nation, an independent nation. These Negroes aren't asking for no nation. They're trying to crawl back on the plantation.
When we talk about reparations, people understand we're talking about tangibles. We're not talking about a handshake. We're not talking about a pat on the back. We're not talking about smiling for a photo op. We're not talking about being accepted. We done swept all that to the side. Malcolm was talking about tangibles. That when you are talking about revolting against the system, the goal is to get tangibles. Not to have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. When you get up to go do that, it's supposed to be for tangibles. When the smoke clears, you're supposed to be discussing the tangibles. That we want something we can feel and hold in our hands. Something that we own and we control on account of the fact that your ownership and your control of it has been nothing short of exploitative and abusive. No, we're not leaving it in your hands anymore. From here on in, it needs to be in our hands. We're not counting on you to be our benevolent benefactors anymore. That's out the window. It's in our hands now.
When you want a nation, that's called nationalism. When the white man became involved in a revolution in this country against England, what was it for? He wanted this land so he could set up another white nation. That's white nationalism. The American Revolution was white nationalism. The French Revolution was white nationalism. The Russian Revolution too, yes, it was white nationalism. You don't think so? Why you think Khrushchev and Mao can't get their heads together?
Okay, now, I that was the part I wanted you all to hear when I said, by the way, Malcolm is naming those white nations. Remember, I remind you, he's naming all those white nations. I said he's going to come back and put that in context. So for those of you who want to be these hardline communists and whatnot, by the way, if you think Malcolm was on the same thing, you might want to check it again. Now, who he just referred to is Nikita Khrushchev and Mao. He was referring to Chairman Mao Tse-tung of China. He was referring to them. If you know your history, you know that China and Russia, for a little bit there, it looked like they were going to get things together, and you know they were going to go along with that. But China was like, y'all ain't really doing communism right, so they went off in their own direction and said, we ain't really trying to do that. You're not on code. So we're decades removed from it. If you don't know your history for Malcolm, these were things that were happening at the time he was alive. Here we are, 6 decades later. So if you don't know your history, you might not be aware of that. But in any case, that's what he's referring to. He's referring to that.
In this country against England, what was it for? He wanted this land so he could set up another white nation. That's white nationalism. The American Revolution was white nationalism. The French Revolution was white nationalism. The Russian Revolution too, yes, it was white nationalism. You don't think so? Why you think Khrushchev and Mao can't get their heads together? White nationalism. All the revolutions that's going on in Asia and Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. A revolutionary is a black nationalist. He wants a Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. Yes, it was white nationalism. You don't think so? Why you think Khrushchev and Mao can't get their heads together? White nationalism. All the revolutions that's going on in Asia and Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. All the revolutions that's going on in Asia and Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism. All the revolutions that's going on in Asia and Africa today are based on what? Black nationalism.
That was Malcolm 6 decades ago. What is he telling you? He's telling you that we here, we set the template that all these other folks who freed themselves plugged into. We set that template. They followed our example. They saw us rise up. They saw us make progress and headway. And next thing you know, it put a battery in the back of everybody else. That's him 6 decades ago, letting you know, hey, by the way, we're the ones who got this kicked off. And we're the ones who keep it going. That's not me talking. That's Malcolm talking decades ago. And I would submit to you that, relatively speaking, Malcolm, had he lived, might have been despondent. But then again, if Malcolm had kept living, he probably would have gotten more done. If Malcolm had stayed alive, he probably would have gotten more done. However, we have to deal with what we actually know here. So in his absence, if Malcolm just had to be sitting here watching the events and not taking part in it, he might have been despondent for that first couple of decades. But the kids are all right. The kids are all right. He's like, well, the kids got on code. The kids got it. The kids found it. The kids picked it up and ran with it. And like any other revolution, a revolution overturns and erases and removes and destroys anything that's in its way. The civil rights generation has been in the way. They're still in the way now. You only have a few malcontents among them, but as a group, the civil rights generation has fulfilled their desire to collaborate with the dominant society. So when we discuss revolution, when we discuss a social uprising, you cannot have sacred cows in that. And some of you are slaves to the collaborators. And Malcolm did not live. Malcolm was looking at the World War II generation. They were different than the baby boomer generation. They were different from the civil rights generation. So you couldn't really make these criticisms of the World War II generation and the post-antebellum slavery generation. You couldn't really make these criticisms of them. We can make these criticisms of the civil rights generation. That's the difference. That's a critical key difference. There are many others, and we'll come to that. However, you might disagree.
From 1961 till now. Yeah? You want to tell me from 1961 till now. None of the African country not put nothing in place for the migrant, them, the West Indian migrant. Did they refer to us as African? Migrant, una migrant. West Indian migrant. Them never refer to as Jamaican. Migrant. That's why you have this problem if we're not going to Africa right now. You are being treated as migrant. Me tell you some guy African dash with my Jamaica passport, you know. And then when I realize that I'm being treated as migrant, I just take for myself. You know? So I can't culture shame me. I can't make me do a walk back by myself.
Yeah. Rastafari Adonai. Jaja bless. Put a fire on political press. One more stress on the foreign press. Lighter for the cross-dresser and them Rasta transgressor. One station with them information. JahBunny the badass station. Creation station. You can't stop it, nor slap it, nor clap it. Jaja.